welcome to the Billiard Room.
The Billiard Room.
I can't believe we are 13 episodes in and we haven't yet been in this room. It's my favorite room. It's awesome.
It's a proper gents room.
And ladies.
Well, I mean, it was built for this guy whose ego was too big for the house that he built, so he had to have a room just for one game.
Got to be careful. He's listening.
Do you think?
Unless it's you, Will, and your ego's too big for this house, and you are secretly a mean billiards player.
I'm not.
False.
I don't know how to play.
Oh no!
I know, it's very sad. I know snooker.
So I can imagine back in the day, this is where the gentleman would retire and have a cigar, maybe some whiskey.
Probably. Yeah, what's really unfortunate is this room was a custom-built smoking room, so it's got vents that go all the way to the ceiling, and then in the ceiling there's a pretty big room that would collect all the cigar smoke, and eventually when it's condensed enough it would lift off out of the chute. So it's custom-built for smoking, but obviously now we can't allow that.
Wow.
Which is a real shame.
So I'm actually looking at the vents in the four corners of the room, and they just built up this smoke, and then it just went up. That's absolutely staggering.
And beneath the table.
Oh, so I could be blind drunk, passed out on the floor, smoking a cigarette, and it would capture it down there.
Yeah.
Fireman
So
loves
it
us.
creates almost like a suction of air up through the roof, and it's got its own smokestack up top, operated by a pulley system.
Now, anyone that is lucky enough to have a wedding here at Berwick, do not use this room for smoking. There are plenty of outdoor areas
Or any room.
to smoke. But Will, I don't know whether maybe this was before your time, but do you remember any of that old school sense of, your dad's friends maybe kind of going in here and having a manly chat about something or other?
Yeah, I do. And this room was built for it. I mean, there's a little bell just over here by the door. We'll put a picture on it just after this episode, and it says Butler's Pantry on it. And obviously that wasn't working when I was a kid, but way back when that was operational, they would ring that. It would go to the Butler's Pantry, and he'd come ringing. He'd come over with his drinks and orders, and
Fantastic.
he'd take orders, and yeah, it was great.
Now, we've done quite a few rooms in this house. Where would the women, where would the ladies, talk about stuff? I don't know what they talk about when the gentleman retired and had a game of billiards and talked about property and money and things like that.
The drawing room, I suppose.
Yeah,
Right. Yes, but the sofas in this room were actually custom built to give ladies and spectators the height they need to be able to watch the game. So, Victorians were quite small.
Victorians famously were very small, averaged about 4 foot, I think, the average Victorian.
So those were custom made to fit in those inlets in the room.
So hang on,
Give the height.
the Victorians were 4 feet.
That
small.
might have been a joke.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty little, but they built this place with ceilings as high as they are. I mean, we're like average 5'10" in this country, and they're still huge.
Yeah.
Back then, they must have been just massive.
Just to give people who are listening and not watching an idea of the scale of this room, it is probably 14 foot tall. Again, anyone that listened to the previous series will know we're not very good with heights or lengths or breadths, but it's a very, very tall room. Like dual aspect, really, really large, beautiful windows looking out onto the grounds with a, what would you call it, burgundy? Yeah, a kind of
Oxblood, it's called.
oxblood.
Oxblood, yeah.
Okay. In your circles, it's called oxblood.
That's what it's called. That's the paint color. I don't make this up.
We call it dark red in ours. No, so it's a really, really staggering room. And obviously the centerpiece of the room is the billiard table, which I guess you guys will post as part of this episode. But what you're telling me is there's two custom-built, high-seated reclining chair sofas. Now, was anyone good enough to warrant being watched whilst playing billiards? Now, we're not professional. Well, maybe your ancestors were professional snooker players.
I don't think so.
No, we found the scoreboards or the scorebook, And so we can see exactly whom of Will's ancestors were halfway decent, who were just rubbish.
I think most of them are quite bad.
More impressing than actually playing.
Judging by all the cues that have tips missing, I imagine they got quite flustered.
Now, Will, is that because you used the cues as kind of swords when you were a kid?
I mean,
you
yeah,
must have done
you've
some
gotta.
fencing or maybe javelin throwing,
I think it was, like polling.
pole vaulting.
Pole vaulting, yeah. With the cues.
Yeah.
So
This was a fun room to renovate as well, do up, because these walls, I mean, once we take these pictures off, that there's nothing there. It's huge blank walls. So filling them was a challenge. I mean, in here is probably, doesn't look like a lot, but it's probably like 70 pictures that we had to find. 60, 70
It used to
pictures.
be like a sickly green color, and when the paintings came down during the auction period, you could see the exact outline of what was there because of the cigarette smoke.
interesting. And remind me and remind people that maybe weren't listening to the first series, what was the auction process?
So there was a period in time when the house belonged to Will and his siblings, but the contents of the house belonged to Will's stepmother. So the items that are in the house now were purchased back from the children from the stepmother.
Yeah, it was messy.
So this whole room was just silhouettes of paintings of old
Yes.
that used to adorn this green room.
During that period in time as well, we had to argue that the billiard room required the billiard table. The billiard table was not effectively a piece of furniture.
Is that why I can see kind of nails hammered into the paints? It's part of the
I
house.
swear it's part of it.
It's a structurally significant billiard
Yeah.
table, and if you take it out, the whole house will fall down. Something like that.
It's a load-bearing billiard
I
table.
mean, imagine moving that.
Now, what I'm surprised about is that your stepmother Will, in all of her good taste, didn't decide to take Mr. Nasser, who's behind us, holding a snooker cue.
He's great.
Yeah, he's fond of the game.
Tell me about Mr. Nasser. What
You know,
did he get? Or Mrs. Nasser? We can't tell.
Could be Mrs. Nasser.
I was on this great big antiques road trip to collect items to fill gaps in the house, things that we couldn't afford to purchase back effectively. I had to replace. So I went on this 16-hour, 2-day journey all around the country and stopping at various antique shops, and he was there, and I swindled him.
How much?
He was out there.
You swindled an inanimate object.
No, I swindled for him. I swindled for him.
The auctioneer.
Now, how much? Actually, we might put a little poll on the Spotify to guess how much Mr. Nasser cost.
Yes.
But how much did he cost?
We should add some background to this. Like, where was he from? Was he from a movie set? Because if he was from 2001: A Space Odyssey, he'd be a fortune.
Well, I do think he's an ex-museum piece, but he's seen some tough times, and his face mask is a bicycle helmet. If you look closely.
So, Cassidy, how much did you pay?
I got him for 100 quid.
Only the listeners will be able to say whether that is good value for money or a total waste of money.
He was listed for 800 quid.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, you still spent 100 quid. You gave somebody 100 quid, and he gave you a bicycle helmet.
And here we are years later talking about him. He's become a staple.
We used to have I don't know if we still do have a television program called Blue Peter here in the UK. And they used to have these challenges where you would build things with papier-mâché and all sorts of different things that you can find around the house.
What are you saying,
That looks
Stephen?
like a Blue Peter.
Do you think? It was an
Yeah.
ex-Blue Peter.
Totally off topic, but my my Blue Peter fact is that it's the only television program on the BBC that clocked 0 viewers in one of the episodes. So at some point somewhere, someone's always watching BBC One, right?
Yeah.
But maybe at 2 a.m. in the morning, one rerun, it was the only time ever
Oh,
that no one has been watching BBC One, and it was a Blue Peter episode.
that
It's
makes me
quite
kind of
sad.
I know.
Playing it for no one.
So, Will, tell me about this room growing up. Give me a kind of a sense of how often you were in here, whether you were allowed in here, what kind of stuff did you get up to?
You know, my childhood, it was a strange childhood, but it was fairly normal in some respects. So I used to collect Warhammer, as any nerdy kid did. I had Space Marines, I had loads of them. And I thought they were coolest things. I painted them, spent so much time on them, and saved up to buy these things. Anyway, when I was probably like maybe too old, I came in here, and Jack, my brother, had set up an air rifle just outside this window here, and he was using the windowsill as a prop to look down the sights. And on the other side of his gun, basically down there on the T platform, were all of my Space Marines lined up.
No.
Yeah, and he wiped them out. Every single Space Marine obliterated. So that's my fondest memory of this.
That is awful.
I was so upset.
I thought you were going to say that your brother was shooting rabbits, and I would have to call veto on that from a podcast ethics perspective.
I
But
thought you were gonna say you and your brother had games of Warhammer on the billiard table.
mean,
And I
it's
was
just
gonna say, oh,
so-
that's so sweet.
No, he actually used the windowsill in this room to shoot my Space Marines.
what had you done to deserve that?
He was born.
I probably beat him at billiards. I probably beat him at snooker. I
You
probably
just
did.
line them up like tin cans.
Yeah. I was so upset.
Oh
I'm so
my
upset.
gosh.
But you know, if you play a game on this table, just going back to my childhood, which I did many times as kids, you realize that snooker and billiards and pool on this table is a very long game.
It's hard work, isn't it?
It's like a good 2-hour game, and you start out going, "Oh yeah, let's have a game. That sounds great." 20 minutes, and we'll play a quick game. It's like a good 2 hours.
I suppose it's a bit like Monopoly or any kind of family game you try to play.
Well, this one, if you're actually good at it, it can go quite quickly. But
That's the difference.
So I totally agree with you. I would say the way to shorten the game is to ignore the whole snooker thing
Yeah.
and just have a load of 8 or 9 snooker balls on one side and 8 or 9 snooker balls on the other side, and your goal is to fling them
Oh yeah.
into the other pockets, and the person that gets rid of theirs quickest wins.
Frida.
A brilliant game.
That's the name of the game, right? Isn't it
What's
called Frida?
Frida.
Yeah, where you throw the balls on the other side.
Ah.
Well, we play it a bit different. We played that game, but you get more points if you hit the other person's fingers.
We've had to replace a lot of windows in this room.
I was going to say, from the far side of the room, looking out onto the outside area, those windows are assumed.
Precarious.
Yeah, pretty precarious.
They don't hold up very well to balls, snooker balls.
Why don't we take a short break, and when we come back, got a very special guest.
We do.
Welcome the guest on.
Looking forward to it.
All right, welcome back, and we have a very special guest.
Welcome, Charlie.
Welcome to the podcast, Charlie.
Yeah.
Now, I think that you are only our second ever guest, and you've unfortunately got quite a lot to live up to. So in series 1, and weirdly enough, I was driving from Wolverhampton today. Shout out to Wolverhampton Services, which I had to go to. And I was overtaking a van with a grey van with a picture of a wolf.
No way.
And it said Mystic Healings, Crystal something or others.
That's Jane.
Jane Lightfoot.
Yes.
And I sped past her, gave her a little wave. She didn't wave back.
She must have been hit with an instant headache.
Yeah, I gave her an instant headache, and then she felt very sick because she had too much Colin the Caterpillar. So
I remember that.
as long as you do better than that, then.
Try.
The bar is high.
So, Will, Cassidy, tell me a little bit about Charlie, how you guys met, and what does Charlie
What
do?
does Charlie do? What doesn't Charlie do?
Yeah, that's a better question.
We actually started the position of porter a couple of years ago now, and it started because we had a friend who was a family friend who was looking for work. He was probably 16 at the time, chap called Henry. He's since left. He was the very first pre-porter, and that's where he made the role. And then Charlie, I think you had an overlap with Henry a little bit.
Tiny bit, yeah. 1 or 2 shifts.
We got an application completely random on Indeed for a bartender.
No, a head bar manager.
Oh, was it a bar manager?
Yeah, head bar manager.
It was
Got to go at the top.
it
go
was
in high.
It was like a hardcore role. It was intensive, and so I was like, all right, so yeah, I guess Charlie doesn't have a huge amount of bartender experience, but this takes guts. This takes huge guts at 16 years old.
Yeah, probably.
So I thought, well, screw it. Let's interview him anyway.
Did you know he was 16 before he came in for the interview, or did he come in for the interview?
I can't remember. I
He's
can't
like-
remember if he put your date of birth.
You know, I think I told you I'm 16. Is that okay?
So not only did you go for head bartender,
Yeah.
but you went for head bartender despite being 2 years below the legal drinking age.
Bar manager.
Bar manager.
It was bar manager.
Dealing with all the.
Yeah.
Okay, I see where you were going with that. Yeah,
It was a big role. And I was
siphoning off.
Yeah, and I was
10%
like,
to your friend.
this
yeah.
takes such guts to apply for a role like this. And I kind of feel, now I think about it, you probably didn't know what you were applying for. You probably didn't know. But at the time, I was like, wow, this isn't. So we interviewed Charlie and formalized the role of Porter. And Charlie's been here ever since. And Porter is not bar manager or bartender or anything like that. It's more setting up events, moving furniture,
You're everything, man.
basically getting the house ready for weddings and events. It's a big role.
So Charlie, when you applied, what was this just for a kind of part-time job? Talk me through your rationale.
Yeah.
And what were the alternative jobs that you could have done at the age of 16 in Shrewsbury?
So previously I was a KP in a kitchen,
KP nuts?
as in like washing dishes.
Kitchen porter.
Kitchen porter.
I did about 2 weeks, and it was just the most horrendous thing ever.
Tell me why it was so bad. I thought it was going to be nuts.
You know, you're that vulnerable 15, 16-year-old. You're getting piled on the dishes.
Yeah.
They're all shouting at you.
Oh.
Keep up. And I ended up
Did
quitting.
they not have a dishwasher?
No.
You are the dishwasher.
I was
They
the
didn't have a
dishwasher.
dishwasher.
I bet they had a dishwasher that they used just to taunt you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's broken down.
We
So
can replace you anytime.
The final straw was me outside for, well, I'd say, 2 weekends in a row in the rain with an iron sponge on the wooden furniture in a hot bucket of water, just getting all the dirt off.
What did you do there, Charlie? What did you
I
do
don't
to
know.
deserve this?
Yeah, this sounds like Victorian punishment, not
Yeah,
a job.
it was.
I don't know, maybe whether you're.
I'm sure some jobs we've asked you to do have been quite bad.
Yeah, but you get the good and the bad here. That was just
That's a good answer. Yeah.
It's a very good answer. So, yeah, give me an example of one of the bad jobs you've had to do here at Berwick.
Oh, this is the famous one, I think. After a wedding, it was only about 2 months into my career here, and
Okay, we won't name names. There was a wedding at some.
a wedding, we all know. I was outside picking up cigarettes in like, oh, it was really cold, like proper,
Mm.
like red fingers cold, and there was like 200 of them, and they'd all missed. Like we had this big bathtub full of sand as like a butt bin or whatever you
Mm.
want to call it, and they all just threw them on the floor anyway. And then I found like a little amulet painting that's in the bar actually, that they'd like grabbed off the wall and thrown into the bush.
No.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not
it's
the
just like-
nicest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Found it before it rained or something. Like, that was
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah, you're never too young to have that kind of what the hell am I doing with my life feeling. Often it comes with age where you're like, oh gosh, I've wasted my whole life, but you're not there yet. But picking up the second 100th butt
That
must have been a bit bleak.
Yeah.
But better, I can imagine better than, boiling hot water, iron sponge
Yeah.
In the rain.
That
in
was
the
worst.
rain.
I'd
Yeah,
say
how is it compare? What's
I think that was worse because that was, I'd like to say, it was like 24 hours, not obviously per day, but 24 hours in a row shift, just outside in the rain, just scrubbing at wooden tables.
I once worked on the farm here when I was a kid, and I thought it would be like driving tractors or something cool, but they had me doing something similar out in the
Yeah.
cold, pulling nails out of a rubber mat for a good 2 weeks.
That had to have been a hazing thing. Like, the kid from the big
I
house
failed.
wants
It's
to work
got
on
to
the
be.
farm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I failed. I quit after a bit. I was like, I'm not doing this.
absolutely. I've never had a job that bad, I have to say. I did once work in a factory or it was more like a lab, where they had this shipment of syringes, tens of thousands of them, and I had to check them for defects, 12-hour shifts, and the defect was a tiny black spot on one of the syringes. So you would spend in total silence 12 hours just looking syringe dot
Looking
syringe
for
dot.
spots in a needle stack.
Exactly. You went mad. Totally mad.
I feel like you would just start seeing spots that aren't there.
Yeah, I think I probably did. I think I probably just walked out, actually.
My first job was a roller skating waitress.
Where's it?
for the fine dining establishment known as Sonic Drive-Thru in the
Mm.
United States.
Now, I assume that every female American teenager starts their professional career as a roller skate.
Roller skating waitress.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
what you do, right?
Mm.
Except I didn't know how to roller skate, and I was delivering milkshakes to people in their nice vehicles
You're delivering milkshakes over people.
over cars. Yes, I frequently delivered milkshakes very speedily.
So, did you put on your resume that you could indeed roller skate, and that was your fatal flaw?
I could actually roller skate fine. It was braking that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've got the cars. You can
could get
slam into the cars, scratch them a bit, pour the milkshake on them, and you'll be fine. But Charlie, what about some of the better things that you do around here? What are the slightly more kind of rewarding bits?
We had that like fantastic clear out of the upper audience room.
Mm.
That was really fun.
I can't believe you enjoyed that.
That was fun. There was like all these like random old artifacts, and the rest of it we just tossed out the window into a skip. And it was kind of like playing basketball. It was just like, see if you can hit it. If not, you'll do the little walk of shame around the corner, pop it back in. But we ended up finding maybe 10 or 20 gas masks just covered up in cloth.
But you know why there were so many gas masks up there? There were children's gas masks
Yeah.
and all sorts. It's because the house was used as a what's the word? Like
A shelter.
a evac shelter in case of Shrewsbury being bombed during the Second World War.
Oh, really? It wasn't ever bombed, was it?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think it was quite important enough to be bombed, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. So where is the upper audience room? I don't think we've been in that room.
So if you're like facing straight out the front door,
Yep.
and you see that building right in front of you, it's just the
Yes.
upper floor of there. To the like that.
And lots of junk.
Really?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
So what's the plan with this room? Because again, if we'll take some photos of it. As you enter Berwick, there's a kind of courtyard area where you can park, and then on the right hand side, it's this big building that I assume is the audience room and the upper audience room. So what's your plan with the space?
I'm thinking milkshake diner.
yeah.
We have
Roller skating.
we have experience in that industry.
Yeah.
Thought through like additional accommodation or maybe a larger office now that our team is growing so much. And like the office we've got currently is not quite big enough, but it's all to be determined.
It all requires investment. It all requires money, and you've got to look at it and go, what makes the most money? And I'm like, an office would be awesome. Does that make us more money, or should we just shove everyone in one room?
What makes the most money, but also what's the most fun?
Yeah.
There must be some wacky uses that you can.
There's an intersection there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. Otherwise, it's a bit pointless.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll wait and see what that looks like. But Charlie, you're just coming out of school, your A levels.
Just finished 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations. Hopefully you have a wonderful summer and you're not work too hard. So what's a working week like? Because you've got to manage your schoolwork and you've got to come here and do weddings. So how many hours a week do you work in?
When I was at college, I was only doing throughout the work week probably only about 8.5 hours, and then on the weekends if there was something on, I'd come in and do the Saturday night or the Sunday. But it'd be right after college on Monday and Thursday, so that would be a bit of a stress.
He'd walk here.
Really?
Before I could drive, I used to walk sometimes. Yeah,
God, that's a good 3 miles.
Proper
Yeah,
school.
from Welshbridge or
But-
Welshbridge.
There is a bus, isn't there?
Yeah, but that's extra money.
But happily, that whole road has been cleared of all detritus from Cassidy's great effort when you got totally obsessed with clearing litter from
Still
the side of the
on it.
road. Still on it.
Me to get back on it, yeah.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
trash picking days aren't over yet.
And you must have seen some weddings, or do you tend to see the beginning and the end? How does it work?
I'm there now anyway. I'll be there beginning, end, the main part, and then the end. So just the whole thing, really.
Seen the whole thing through.
So here's a question for you, and you can say absolutely none of it. I hate it all.
Yeah.
But what would you say is the most interesting or like exciting or rewarding bit throughout the whole sort of setting up a wedding, having the wedding or party, whatever, and then taking it all down?
I'd say for a top 3, I'd say finishing that table layout and then finally like putting the linen and the glasses and the cutlery and the plates on, and it looks fantastic.
That's because there's so much work to do.
It's so much work to do when it's done. Say talking to the people behind the bar as well, to the customers.
Yeah, who'd you make a drink for last week?
Oh yeah.
So you are now behind the bar as well.
Yeah.
Gosh, all right.
Yeah.
Well done.
Not as manager.
Not as mad, but you'll get there. You'll get there with enough
Yeah.
enough work.
So yeah, I didn't even realize till he told me after, but I was making Bloody Marys for Vic Armstrong.
Vic Armstrong.
Who is Harrison Ford's stunt double.
I don't know.
It
It's
all-
very niche. I was thinking Neil Armstrong, Louis Armstrong, they're dead. Vic Armstrong.
Yeah, he was in Indiana Jones and like Spider-Man and
Cool.
stuff like
Wars.
that. Star Wars, yeah.
Is he still a stuntman or is
I
he?
think so.
Yeah, so I was reading he's Harrison Ford stunt double, but he doesn't look like Harrison Ford at all.
No.
It's the body. It's like the size and proportion of your body.
Do you
Because
think?
they normally do stunts like back of your head.
But does Harrison Ford ever need to do stunts anymore? He's pretty old.
Yeah, maybe
The only things I've seen him in.
Yeah, tell Vic Armstrong his work's drying up.
Yeah, sorry, Vic. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was quite.
How did you find out? Because for me, that
You just told me, didn't you?
I can't remember how I found out. I can't. I think I was talking to the groom or somebody.
Yeah.
I can't remember. He introduced himself as Vic Armstrong, and then the groom said, "Oh, do you know who that is?" I can't remember.
what's some of the best things that you've seen at weddings over your time here?
Ooh,
There must be some quite cool weddings and
See.
quite cool setups.
same wedding, but the champagne tower from last week. That was very cool.
That was a lot of.
Terrifying.
That
I
was
was extremely terrified.
So are these the wide-brimmed champagne glasses that trickle down?
Yeah.
How many
We went up
stories do you
five.
reckon?
I think yeah. I think
5 bucks, wasn't it?
5 or 6
I got stuck. I got stuck at the back of the champagne tower because I was helping assemble it all. And bear in mind, I was in my jeans because I wasn't planning on being there for the whole day. So I was assembling this champagne tower, and then I realized I was right by the window, between the champagne tower and the window, and I couldn't leave because every time I tried to leave, the whole sort of tower started wobbling, and I was in my jeans, and I was like, I can't stay here. Do I jump out the window?
Now, if anyone has seen your dog Zelda, who is probably the world's largest dog, he is pretty close to being the world's largest. You know, yeah, it's definitely in the runnings. I can imagine that she would not have been welcome anywhere near the champagne tower. She must have been comically bad. Have you ever had a chocolate fountain? Is that a thing that people have, or is that a bit
did
naff these days?
We did at one event in 2023.
Yeah.
But we weren't responsible for like setting it up or cleaning it or anything. And I imagine those are the heavy downsides to a chocolate fountain.
Yeah, that makes such
Chocolate
such a
fountain.
mess.
What about one of those ice,
Ice
those
sculptures.
ice sculptures that have a little chute that you can pour vodka and it comes out, and depending on how lewd you are, it can come out of anything, right? And it can be very, very funny.
Sounds so cute.
I've never seen this.
Sounds like my 40th
Till now.
birthday is going to involve a bit of
Not yet, but fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. Okay, so you've seen the kind of the champagne tower.
Yeah.
Any other thing that's made you think, all right, when the time comes and I want to get
I
married?
tell you what, doing food was quite stressful, at least for me, because we do food, but when we do it, it can be quite. We haven't done a huge amount of it, so it can be quite a stressful experience. So we're still sort of.
Sure.
I am. Yeah. Sorry.
This is Will's management style coming out. You know, Will just talk over the top. Charlie, what about you?
You share that experience is what I was going to ask.
No, I'd say the best thing I've probably seen is I've got a lot of Scottish family, and it's been probably about 12 years since I've been to my last Scottish wedding, and the best thing I've seen was a proper good ceilidh in the hall. That
Amazing.
was really good. That was like right when I started as well, and that was
And the hall, which I don't think we've actually done an episode from yet, would be perfect for a ceilidh. It's like the right size.
yeah.
Was it a called ceilidh? I.e., if you're a real ceilidh pro,
Yeah.
you don't even, there's no one to call the different things that you need to do. So there's just, okay, the band start playing or the violinist starts doing whatever they do,
Yeah.
and we know it's strip the willow, so let's all do the things because we're so good at ceilidhing, versus someone actually going, now do this, now do that.
It's gotta
And
be
you-
I think they only
And
had
yeah, I think
be-
it was probably the second one.
yeah, no,
Must be the second
but I
one.
think they only had it the second one because everyone was very drunk.
Yeah.
They didn't know what time it was.
got a mix.
I remember going to a wedding in Scotland where they did an uncalled Kaylee, and that was just
That would have been cool.
Carnage.
extremely embarrassing because you just ended up like trying to like jump around with people who were taking it much more seriously. Did you get involved?
I wish. No, I didn't have my kilt.
To what extent can members of staff interact with and take kind of enjoyment from the wedding? What's the kind of policy there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the way I see it is you've got to look through everything through a lens of kindness. And if that means pretending to do a shot with a guest,
Mm.
then you pretend to do a shot with a guest just to make them happy, just to appease them. That's my outlook.
God.
Anyway, you might not share this.
We're pretending.
I can imagine Will's pretending he's really bad as well. You just throw some vodka onto Charlie behind you.
That was great, yeah.
My approach is as long as the jobs get done and guests are happy, actually participating in the event with the guests is giving them a more special experience if they want you there. So if someone pulls you onto the dance floor and you've not got anyone waiting on you or nothing to do, I have no qualms about going along with it for a couple minutes.
So in your world, the whole of the staff could be having the party.
They're all
and the guests have
drunk.
all cleared out, and it's just us having a party.
A total melee, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had?
The like feedback we get is that the team made them feel so special. And
Yeah.
they all said like it was so nice to actually get to know you all and feel like you're part of the crowd and not just like you're in the background making it all tick. Like you're also there for us as people.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Charlie, have you had any really, really good interactions with guests or even, the happy couple or anything like that?
Yes. It always ends up being me. I don't know how, but it's always me that ends up chatting to the customers behind the bar. When we quieten down and I've got some time, it's always me just like leaning over at the end, talking to this random guy for half an hour, while like every 2 minutes going, "There's only on there." But
I'm sure I've got a picture of probably like 5 or 6 people surrounding the bar, just trying to get the next bit of story that you were telling them. I think you were telling them about the ghost.
Yeah,
Oh,
Charlie
yeah.
likes to tell ghost stories.
Yeah.
Oh, the ghost,
from was it Blue and
the Blue Room ghost, who has been
yeah.
thoroughly excommunicated or whatever the phrase is. Not excommunicated. You know what I mean.
They're not a member.
Exercised. There you go.
So yeah, Charlie really gets guests riled up because you'll be like, "Ooh, which room are you in?" And it doesn't matter which room they say. He'll be like, "Oh no, not that."
That's the ghosty room.
Yeah. I was up in balcony the other day and that properly freaked me out. There's a little bit of like a ticking sound. And every time I
Yes,
lost my attention for a second, like tuned out, it'd start.
it's the bathroom fan gets
Is it?
blown in the wind.
Because I thought,
So it's
I
not-
thought I was
it's
getting into
not
theories, and I was like,
Feels like we need to do an episode with you and Jane Lightfoot.
We need to exercise.
We need yeah, and it can be a live episode where we go through from room to room,
Yeah.
just checking out the ghosts.
Have you seen the new app, the new ghost app?
No.
So apparently there's an app and you walk through different rooms and the ghost will shout at you when you're walking through the different rooms on your app.
Sure, it's not the spies listening in.
That feels like something that Elon Musk has created, right? Just a total farce. What? Yeah. I mean,
I
yeah.
love it.
Anyone that likes the app, fine, but that sounds like a waste of time.
Charlie's got a really good like training program for new porters that we bring.
yeah.
As headquarters.
Yeah, this is our little like scaremongering ritual.
So Charlie's been here about 2 years now. So all the porters we've got have been trained by you.
Yeah.
Through the training, the Charlie training.
Talk to me about the Charlie training.
So I think the first one, I brought Jacob up. And Jacob was originally my mate, and I referenced him for the job. And we brought him up to the roof, and we had him with like a sponge getting lichen off the wood.
He's not
Okay, a
just
bit of
with me.
And
A little bit of hazing.
I like how your hazing was like giving him the experience you had at your previous job with a wire bush.
Yeah. That's
In
the
the rain.
inspiration. And then for Ben, he's actually been my best mate since we were like babies. And our dads have been friends since the 70s or the 80s or whatever. And when he started working here, I thought I've got to like royally mess with his head. So I brought him up to the top and I give him like this, I think it was like a duster, some chisel bits, and a little brush, and had him up there for like 10 minutes while he thought I went down, was hiding around the corner watching it.
This is the root.
Just working like anything.
The
Since his
massive
first day.
roof.
Oh,
Yeah, this is the roof of Berwick.
and he thought that this was his big project.
He'll send them up with like a toothbrush.
That is extremely mean. But what I do like about it, it obviously shows that you like working here.
Yeah.
To the extent that you're willing to bring your best mates and obviously have a bit of a laugh, but also you think, get them involved as well, right?
Yeah. Well, they're not going to say no. It's their first day, isn't it? So
They'll do. You can take that to
That's the
extreme.
most amazing thing is that they will actually start doing it. You have to give them like 15 minutes before you say, okay, it was just a joke. But that's like how hard
And then they
the
cry.
team is.
They cry, and they leave you a bad
They secretly
glass door.
resent you for the rest of their employment.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to ask this question because we only get guests on very infrequently, especially members of the team. What are Will and Cassidy like as managers?
Don't all start.
No consequences.
I'd possibly say like the most fun
Is that the time?
and actually efficient managers you could get, to be fair.
You don't have to lie, Charles.
I'm not lying.
Now, fun I can imagine. Efficient is
Questionable.
Is it? Well, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
try and expand upon that a bit.
I feel like we always get the stuff done. Like we always know, well, they'll always know if I'm stuck on what to do, they'll know what to do. And it's not just like kind of barking at you from away. Actually get stuck in as well, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's funny.
To actually do the stuff as well,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny you say that because, like at a wedding or like between events or something, there won't be a huge amount going on, and the porters will be looking for stuff to do, and they'll just be like, should I hoover this or should I pick this up? And I'm like, no, just chill out, go take it easy, go find something else to do. It's not that intense. And I go, oh, okay. And then, sure enough, I only say that because it becomes quite manic quite quickly, and that is it. It's pretty much like this or this. There's nothing really between.
Or we'll give you a card and say, go to McDonald's. Pick up McDonald's.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind that job.
So fun and efficient.
Yeah.
Efficient is a word.
This
I've
is
never
really
thought
no,
I'd
but
use.
this is great. And obviously you've been here for 2 years. I think
Yeah.
one of the things that it's very, very kind of useful to learn, especially when you're just starting your career, is that you guys are absolutely brilliant, but you're trying to figure it out as well, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure that you manage in that kind of inclusive way. That's just like, look, we're problem solvers. We're up for figuring it out with you, but we don't always have all the answers.
Nope.
Yeah.
And most people in business and in life are just kind of muddling through, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of desperately paddling underwater, hoping to keep things afloat.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't seem like we've ever pretended that we know all the answers. But I think the can-doism of the whole team makes you feel brave enough to just tackle it anyway. Like, yeah, we've
Nothing's impossible.
never like done this before. I mean, we're not going to start like doing electrical work or anything. We can do it. Not quite like that, but just giving everything a shot.
And
Yeah.
the founding motto, "Be as you seem to be," goes through the events that we do and how you treat the staff.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you're much of a heavy lifter and you can't move heavy furniture, don't do it. Just leave it. The world's not ending. We're running events. We're working hospitals.
Yeah.
So, that's just how we.
But we are hospitality.
Oh no, the word hospital's in there somewhere.
Says Cassidy eating some sweet corn, which out of a tin, which could have been your prop today. I know that you haven't had lunch. Now we're going to finish on a very quick fire question. It's going to be very simple, very straightforward this week. I'm going to start with you, Will. What's the best thing that's happened this week? I know you've been on holiday, so this can be quite a
Yeah.
week.
Could it include holiday?
It can include whatever you want, Will. What's been good about this week?
So a bit of a combination because we went to Greece for my sister's wedding, which was really nice this past week. And for the first time in probably 2 or 3 years, I didn't think about work. We spent a week out there at a wedding. Bear in
Wow.
mind. And I didn't pack my Crocs, so I didn't pack my comfy shoes because I was prepared not to do much work. And I probably thought about work maybe like once. So
Which
that's
is,
probably,
by the way, a testament to Charlie for looking after the house
Holding
and
down the sport.
holding down the fort. There's obviously enough trust there that you don't have to think, oh my gosh, is something going terribly wrong?
Huge
She's been
leap.
around for a couple of years, right?
Mm.
That's very cool. What about you?
Best thing that happened this week.
Best thing that's happened this week?
Oh. Got home
dog
at
didn't eat
4 a.m.
shoes.
We got home at 4 a.m. this morning from said holiday, and our flat had been cleaned
Hmm.
by our flat, which is part of Berwick, was cleaned by our housekeepers, which was
So
the
nice.
nicest thing ever to come home to.
It is always, yeah. I always, when I'm going away, I always think of my future self when I'm, making sure the dishwasher's, loaded and stuff
Bins
like that.
gone
'Cause you
out.
don't want to come home and it's all a complete disaster. Okay, 4 a.m. Hence the sweet corn for lunch.
Yeah.
Charlie, what about you? Round this off.
Ooh. My dad, and his impossible mountain hikes, he drags me along, which is voluntary. It was a challenge.
Where'd you go?
The Lake District, where my dad's from, and we did. I can't remember the exact name. I think it's called the Eskdale Pike Horseshoe or something.
How many miles?
It was 18.5 miles.
Oh my God.
And it was up. You go up one side. It's like a proper horseshoe valley. You start up in the middle. You go straight up this one. It's like super steep, and then you just go up and down 8 different mountains.
Oh wow.
And then come back all the way into the middle of the valley and walk back down to the cut.
Jesus.
Why?
Awful.
Yeah.
Question, did your feet hurt more or less than they do after
Very good
wedding
question.
Berwick?
Ooh. I'd say they hurt far more than Berwick.
Far more than Berwick.
They're wet boots.
No McDonald's breaks.
No. In fact, it was more just kind of, Dad, can we take a break? No, keep going. So I was just
You start becoming a moany child.
yeah.
You were
When we finished, yeah.
And
Go home.
he's obviously a ex-military man, so there's no sympathy.
Oh, absolutely not.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
It is hard going.
Well, on that note, thank you, Charlie, for being a wonderful guest. I think we'll have to get you on again. And I also think we're going to have to do the billiard room because we didn't even do any of the props.
I know,
I've got
it's
about 30 or 40 different things to talk about that we're going to have to save for another week. But thank you, guys. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Next time.
Thanks so much.
See you next time.